Today is Tuesday, October 15th, 2019. Coming up on Roland Martin Unfiltered, murder charges for the cop who killed a black woman in Fort Worth. The former cop will give you the details on that case, which has stirred up lots of interest, not only in Fort Worth, but all across the country. The Lieutenant Governor of Virginia, Justin Fairfax, is joining us to talk about his battle against sex charges. He says it's time for him to be vindicated. We will go over that with him. Also, folks, on today's show, the Chicago former cop who murdered Rekia Boyd, he now wants his entire criminal record erased. We'll explain what Dante Servit is trying to do. Also, the owner of the Word Network, Kevin Adell, he is responding to calls for a boycott over a text battle he had with a pastor who used to be on his network. Also, Black and Latino folks make up 86% of juveniles charged as adults over the past 10 years. We'll break it down for you. And Donald Trump, well, you know, he did something stupid today. But the person who really did something stupid was Rudy Giuliani, who's ignoring a subpoena. I'm sorry, aren't you the former U.S. attorney for the Southern District of New York? So now subpoenas are optional? It's time to snap the cuffs and do a perp walk for Giuliani. It's time to bring the funk on Roland Martin Unfiltered. Let's go.
Whatever the miss, he's on it. Whatever it is, he's got the scoop, the fact, the find. And when it breaks, he's right on time and it's rolling. Best believe he's knowing. Putting it down from sports to news to politics. With entertainment just for kicks, he's rolling. It's on go, roll, y'all. It's Roland Martin, yeah. Rolling with Roland now. He's funk, he's fresh, he's real, the best, you know he's Roland Martin now. Martin!
Aaron Dean, the former Fort Worth police officer who fatally shot 28-year-old Atatiana Jefferson in her home this weekend, was jailed last night on a murder charge. His bail was set at $200,000. He was released on bond last night. You might recall it was yesterday where the police chief of Fort Worth went before the cameras and said had Dean not resigned, he would have been fired as a result of his decision-making on early Saturday morning when Jefferson was in her home and where she was, of course, playing video games with her nephew. A wellness call went into the police officer because her door had been ajar since 10 o'clock. The officers actually went around the home. Apparently, she heard a noise. According to officials, the nephew said she heard a noise and got her gun and pointed it at the window. We don't know if that took place prior to him firing the shot. What we do know, based upon that body cam video we showed you yesterday, that the officer did not identify himself. And so Dean is out on bond but again, he has been charged with murder. I want to go to our panel right now and talk about this with them. Of course, joining us right now, Dr. Jason Nichols, Department of African American Studies, University of Maryland, and Kelly Bethea, Communication Strategist, Malik Abdul, Republican Strategist. Jason, I want to start with you. Again, the police have charged him with murder. Doesn't mean that will actually be the grand jury will indict him on that. Also, no word when the Tarrant County DA is going to take this to the grand jury. But certainly, Fort Worth has moved a lot faster than other jurisdictions in similar cases.
Yeah, this case is tragic, and again, this whole Dallas-Fort Worth area is, hopefully it's not endemic of the entire country, because this is, people being shot in their own homes. And I'm assuming that her gun was, a legal firearm, which she had every right.
Well, first of all, yesterday news conference, the mayor made it perfectly clear that it was inexcusable when the police put out that a gun was recovered. She said that meant nothing to this case. She had absolute right to be able to have the weapon in her home, so it had no bearing whatsoever. And that was the mayor yesterday when she went before the cameras.
Right. Yeah. So I think hopefully that justice will be done in this case. We can't have people being shot in their own homes, and particularly when they're not even being called. It's not even a criminal kind of call. It's a wellness call. where police are supposed to be checking to see if everything is okay, and the first thing they do without announcing anything is firing a shot. It's just totally reckless. How he even had his gun drawn at that point, I think is suspect in and of itself.
This, of course, folks, if you go to my iPad, please, this is the front page of the Fort Worth Star-Telegram, and you see there, murder warrant for ex-officer says victim was holding gun. Well, that's legal in Texas. Folks, in Texas, a homeowner has a right to defend their property. And so the fact that she was holding a gun, pointing it at the window when the officer fired is irrelevant, Kelly, because in Texas, that, again, is legal. What we do know with that body cam video is that the officer, he was shining the light into her home. He never identified himself. Not one time did he yell, police, put the weapon down. He just simply yelled, put the weapon down, fired within 6 seconds.
It's just, I'm really upset about it. It's hard for me to talk regarding this because it's unfortunately nothing that we haven't heard before. It's just a rinse and repeat of cops not being able to value Black lives. Like, it makes no sense to me. First of all, the fact that he didn't even knock on the front door, from my understanding, he went around the back, which is why she was even at her bedroom window in the first place. If this is a wellness check, you knock on the door. You check on the person. You don't scope out the premises acting like somebody's in the house who's not supposed to be there. The fact that she had a gun, like you said, is irrelevant because in Texas, you are allowed to defend yourself in your house with a gun. The fact that people don't, like police officers don't think that Black people can have guns. This was just wholly unnecessary.
Melik, Jim Lane, who is the defense attorney for Dean, former city councilman there in Fort Worth, said that he and his client had no comment at all. But again, the thing that is, I mean, and I will give them credit, is that the city of Fort Worth did not do what many other jurisdictions have done. Did not immediately try to play a game of trying to cover it up, of trying to defend the police officer. What you have not seen, you have not, unlike what you see in New York, you have not seen the police union come out blasting folks left and right. You haven't seen any of that. They understood that this officer screwed up all across the board. And you heard the chief yesterday say, had he not resigned, I would have fired him.
Mm-hmm. This is a much more clear-cut case than anything that we've seen before, and we have the body cam evidence to actually prove that. When I first saw it yesterday and I was watching him, and I don't know what the protocol is, but when I was watching him go through the back gate of the home, looking around the side of the home, you know, I didn't know if that's something that's standard practice when you don't even announce yourself at the door. Like, you go to the back of the house, forget the front door, you just decide to go to the back of the house. But I do believe that this was a much more clear-cut case and easier to grasp than probably any other case that I've seen, because we're watching him. And when I saw it initially, it reminded me of the speed in which she was killed reminded me of Tamir Rice. Mm-hmm. When the officers arrived at the scene, and probably by the time I finished this sentence, he was already dead. Mm-hmm. And so this is another example of that. And I think that the Fort Worth area, you know, they did do a great job. Like you said, the chief did say, you know, if he did not turn him, you know, resign, he was going to fire him. So that lets you know early on that they saw something here that is, well, I won't say it's unlike anything for them, but it's pretty clear that they saw something wrong if they went this far.
Also, what's interesting here, according to the Associated Press, Dean issued a one-sentence resignation letter. It said, quote, you can go to my iPad, please. Effective immediately, I am tendering my resignation from the Fort Worth Police Department. This is a story in the Fort Worth Star-Telegram. But the letter was not released by the Fort Worth Police Union. The letter was released by the State Police Union, the Combined Law Enforcement Association of Texas, also known as CLEAT. And according to this Star-Telegram story, the group's executive director, Charlie Wilkinson, said an attorney will be provided for Dean with financial support from the union.
Now, I don't know if that's standard. Right. That may be standard.
No. Normally, when you have these cases, the local union, the local police department union That's typically who you see responding. We've seen that in Baltimore. We've seen it in New York and other places. The fact that the Fort Worth Police Union did not respond to any of this, but the state union did. I still think is quite interesting here. And so, but again, Aaron Dean, he's out on bond, of course, charged by police with murder for the death of 28-year-old Ms. Jefferson. And so we'll keep you updated on this case as we get more details. Going to go to a break right now. When we come back, we'll chat with Virginia Lieutenant Governor Lt Fairfax, who has been under lots of pressure over the past year after he was accused of sexual assault by 2 women. He is now countersued, saying he is fighting to reclaim his name. We will chat with him about that lawsuit and other issues next, right here on Roland Martin Unfiltered. You want to check out Roland Martin Unfiltered? YouTube.com/Roland S. Martin. And subscribe to our YouTube channel. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real. It's Roland Martin Unfiltered. See that name right there? Roland Martin Unfiltered. Like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. That's youtube.com/Roland S. Martin. And don't forget to turn on your notifications so when we go live, you'll know it. All right, fam, it's almost that time. The holiday season, of course, is, for many of us, the favorite time of the year. Now, whether you celebrate Halloween, Thanksgiving, Ramadan, Christmas, Kwanzaa, New Year's, all of these, of course, from October to the end of the year, this is when you think about spending time with the people you love the most. This is also the time to count your blessings and support those less fortunate and look at how you can have an impact on their lives. Well, I have the perfect opportunity for you to be a holiday hero, have a major impact on other families. Here's the deal. Right now, hundreds of thousands of Americans are sitting in jail without being convicted of a crime. Why? Because they lack the financial resources to pay their bail. Now think about it. If you are arrested for any minor offense, you'll be taken directly to jail. If you don't have bail money, whether it's a few $100 or a few $1,000s, you will stay there until a court date is scheduled. Now that could be days, weeks, or even months. America's bail system is broken and has created a 2-tier system of justice, one for the rich and one for the poor. Folks, freedom should be free. That's why the Ebony Foundation is partnering with the Bail Project and is sponsoring the Home by the Holiday campaign. With your help, our goal is to bail out 1,000 people by New Year's Day. How's that for a holiday gift? A donation from you can change someone's life tomorrow, and here's why it is critical. People of color represent upwards of 90% of the jail population across the country. It ranges from 50 to 90% depending upon where you are. Of course, then when they stayed in jail, 90% of people with misdemeanors ended up pleading guilty. However, when bail was paid, 50% of the cases were dismissed and less than 2% received the jail sentence. Sometimes justice needs just us to join the fight. Folks, you can be a holiday hero by donating $25, $50 or more to help the Ebony Foundation bring our brothers and sisters home for the holidays. To donate, go to homebytheholiday.com. That's HOMEBYTHEHOLIDAY.com. And of course, the Ebony Foundation is tied to Ebony Magazine. And so we certainly appreciate the work that they're doing to assist those who are most in need. Folks, many folks last year were stunned when allegations of sexual assault were levied against the Lieutenant Governor of Virginia, Lt Fairfax. First by Vanessa Tyson, claiming it took place. She was forced to perform oral sex at the Democratic National Convention, 2004. Then another woman who said that she was sexually assaulted by Fairfax when they attended Duke University. There were numerous interviews that were done. Fairfax denied those allegations. The women wanted to have an act, wanted to go before the Virginia Assembly, but they also said they were going to talk to investigators in Massachusetts, North Carolina. District attorneys in Massachusetts and North Carolina both said that if a complaint was filed, they would actually investigate. To this date, no complaint has been filed by either woman or their attorneys. Well, a couple of weeks ago, Lt Fairfax filed a $400 million lawsuit against CBS for advancing the narrative, interviewing Vanessa Tyson. He says it's time to clear his name, and he joins us right now on Roland Martin Unfiltered for, obviously, for the purpose of full disclosure. I'm a member of Alpha Phi Alpha along with Justin, and also Beta Nu, chapter of Sigma Pi Phi of the Boule, and so that's important to state that. So, Lieutenant Governor, glad to have you here.
Thank you, Roland.
Thanks
Happy
a
to
bunch.
be back with you. Appreciate it very much.
So you first and foremost, you filed this lawsuit.
Yes.
2 women made these allegations. Right. You have said point blank, this did not happen.
Right.
They have been arguing that there should be a full investigation through the Virginia Assembly. Why did you file a lawsuit against CBS?
Yeah, well, we did file this lawsuit in federal district court in the Eastern District of Virginia against CBS because, they put these stories on the air, broadcast what were fabricated claims to millions of people across the country without doing their homework and with a reckless disregard for the truth. We were supplying them with information and questions to ask to test the veracity of the stories, and they really did not do what they needed to do to show, which is what we know today, is that these stories are fabricated and also politically motivated. And so, it was obvious to so many people in Virginia and around the country exactly what this was all about. It only occurred right around the time when it appeared that Governor Northam might step down and that I might ascend to the governorship of Virginia. It was at that precise moment that these false allegations were made because people were desperate to try to stop me from becoming governor of Virginia. And we have proof positive of that. We found text messages between the aide to the Richmond mayor, LeVar Stoney, the wife of one of his former top aides, where she says to Dr. Tyson that weekend, looks like Governor Northam's going to be forced to resign tomorrow. We need to get your story out today to the press. And so it was obvious that the people were doing exactly what we suspected from day one, which were engaging in a smear campaign. Because, again, there are some folks who are connected and powerful who are desperate to try to stop me from becoming governor of Virginia, and they've now been exposed for what they are.
When you talk about the folks targeting, again, so CBS did an interview with Vanessa Tyson.
Yes, and with Meredith Watson.
Meredith Watson.
Yes, both.
And both of their attorneys said that they were going to talk to the DAs there. You have called for the district attorneys to actually launch an investigation.
Absolutely.
Are you surprised that no complaints have actually been filed for the DA in Massachusetts, in Boston, and the one in North Carolina to actually pursue this? Because the statute of limitations has not run out.
Not in North Carolina. We believe it has in Massachusetts, but we were calling 6 months before the statute of limitations ran out for an investigation. And yes, whether I was surprised that there's been no complaint filed, I'm actually not that surprised because these are fabricated claims. And the last thing someone wants to do when they're fabricating a claim, particularly a serious claim of a supposed crime, is to talk to law enforcement, to go to talk to prosecutors and police, because the difference between going to police and going, for instance, to the General Assembly is that if you lie to the police, if you make material misstatements, and I'm a former federal prosecutor, so I know this process very well, you can then be charged with a crime. It is a crime to lie to the police, to the FBI, to local district attorneys. And so if you're fabricating a claim and that claim starts to fall apart, the police discover it, then you yourself could be charged. So that from that standpoint, I'm not surprised. I know that Dr. Tyson's lawyers did say that they were going to meet with the DA in Boston back in February. Here we are in October, and that apparently still has never happened. And so we've shown so many fabrications and falsehoods and things about these allegations that completely were revealed to be untrue. It never happened, what they're alleging. Any crime, any inappropriate conduct never occurred. And we know, again, because of the timing, because of the means that were used, that this was all a smear campaign. And that was the whole point of it. And they had to rush it, actually, because we know they were holding on to some of these things and they were going to find the precise, great moment to try to stop me. And that could have been later down the road, but because Governor Northam looked like he might be stepping down, they had to rush it and hurry up and do this thing on a rush basis. And they got sloppy. And now people see exactly, what this was.
CBS responded, quote, "We stand by our reporting and we will vigorously defend this lawsuit." And what has been interesting, again, with the whole back and forth here, you've had her folks speak out. They were critical of the filing of this lawsuit, but there hasn't been much since. Mm-hmm. What do you attest that to?
Well, you're right, and that's interesting. We actually filed our initial complaint back in September. We filed an amended complaint on October the 3rd, and interestingly, Roland, neither CBS nor either of the attorneys for either of the accusers responded at all to that amended complaint. It's because it's a very powerful document, and I would encourage people to go read it. It's about 57 pages.
Where can they read it?
They can either go to a website called PACER, which is the federal court system, and they can find the complaint that way. It's also in a number of news stories online. And it really lays out very powerfully the facts, the case as to why these allegations, again, are completely fabricated. But then beyond that, how they were politically motivated. And we put actual screenshots of these text messages that are going back and forth. We put information about what CBS, what information they had, what information we were supplying them, questions that they didn't ask, and things that would have really shown that these stories were false, and yet they recklessly put them on the air, and millions of people saw them, and it does enormous damage to have these false stories. And so you noticed that none of the statements said we stand by the truth of the stories. Right? It said we stand by our reporting, but we're talking about whether these stories are true or not. And we know that they're not true. We know that they were aired to millions of people recklessly, with a reckless disregard for the truth, and they were defamatory. And that's why we filed the lawsuit that we filed. People should be held accountable. We really have to get out of this mode where people can say things without any evidence, without any proof, with obvious political motivations to try to do damage, and then simply walk away.
According to your complaint, you said that on Sunday, February 3rd, 2019, Scharf, which is Adria Scharf, sent an urgent message to Tyson alerting her that Northam may be forced to resign tomorrow. Northam's resignation would immediately have elevated, obviously, you to the governorship.
Right.
And Scharf pushed Tyson, said, quote, that Thad and I think your story should get to the local press today rather than later. Dr. Thad Williamson works at the University of Richmond, professor there, was a former aide to Mayor Stoney. So first and foremost, Scharf denied that she had any involvement in any of this until these text messages came out. How did you get this text message?
Yeah, well, that's something that'll come out in court in terms of how we got them, but we got them, completely properly, and so we got the text messages and we added those to the complaint because they show it's really the smoking gun in that case that this was completely a conspiracy that's politically motivated to try to stop me from becoming governor of Virginia. I mean, they say it themselves in black and white.
So LeVar Stoney, who's the mayor of Richmond,
right?
Have y'all been longtime political rivals? What does he have? What you're alleging? I mean, trying to stop you. What does he have against you? He calls it false.
Right. Well, again, he, I think, considers me a rival. I've never considered him a rival, but he has announced publicly, and it's a well-known fact that he wanted to run for lieutenant governor in 2017, and yet I ran and we won. He also has told people that he wants to run for governor or lieutenant governor in 2021. And so, obviously, if I'm governor and if I had served out the 3 years of Governor Northam's term and then run for another 4 years, that would have been 7 years as governor. And so, obviously, with his former aide's wife and them all conspiring, they wanted to stop that by any means necessary. So they were incredibly desperate to try to find some way to stop me from being elevated to the governorship back in February. And this was the means that they chose. And so what you're hearing now are a whole bunch of denials about, well, I didn't know this, or I wasn't aware of that. And it's so obvious to anybody who's been paying any attention what this was. And it's also obvious that, again, that these stories are false and fabricated. And so you had a number of people rush to judgment, came out, called for my resignation. You had people all over, the state, at least political insiders. The people have always been on our side.
And including the former governor, Terry McAuliffe.
That's right. In fact, Governor McAuliffe was, to my knowledge, the first major political figure in Virginia to call for my immediate resignation.
Were you close to ever resigning?
Never, because these things are false. And again, that's what we have to do. First of all, we have to speak up, have courage, and tell the truth. And I knew the entire time that I was telling the truth. And in fact, we've done everything that we can to show, again, these allegations are false and that I was telling the truth the entire time. I passed 2 lie detector tests. We reached out to the DAs. How many people do you know accused of a crime actually contact the DAs themselves, and say, please investigate this and I'll talk to you. I'll waive my Fifth Amendment right and I'll come in and I'll talk to you. And then when they wouldn't move, and we ended up filing a lawsuit, which now there is evidence being put forward through that lawsuit to show that these allegations were completely false. For instance, with Meredith Watson, her attorney, Nancy Erica Smith, is no longer even publicly vouching for the truth of the story. Ever since July 9th, when we had our attorney Barry Pollock reach out to the Durham DA and give them exculpatory information, they've completely changed their tune. And now they don't want to talk about it anymore. Well, they don't want to talk about it because it's revealed to be false.
And again, they're claiming, in Tyson's case, she's claiming you forced her to have oral sex. You say it was consensual. Meredith Watson, her case, she says that she was raped. You say the two of you were engaged in consensual sex.
That's correct. And again, there's other exculpatory information that we've already put out in the public record that's been out in the public record for some time. Ms. Watson also accused a Duke basketball player of rape, the year before. And again, to our knowledge, there's no evidence to corroborate that. And so as people have seen the facts, they've seen this play out, they now see very clearly what this was all about and what it continues to be all about. There are people, again, who remain desperate to try to stop me from being governor of Virginia. But again, the people have been on our side. I've traveled all around the Commonwealth of Virginia. I can't go anywhere without people coming up to us saying, we know these are false. We know, why they did this. We know who's behind this. And we really want you to make sure not only that you stay in this office, but you continue to serve the Commonwealth well into the future, and we got your back. We said a Washington Post poll come out, and we're plus 14 favorability rating. And that's even after all these lies have been told for, 7, 8 straight months, and yet the people still believe in us and people still are on our side.
When this first came out, there were individuals, there were people who immediately said, he's got to go, he's got to quit. Then I remember Eva Jones DeWeaver, one of the folks on our show, one of our panelists, and others. They were sort of leery about this as well. There were some who said that even that this was an attack on a black elected official, even though you had 2 black women. Mm-hmm. Then you had people who were saying, look, you should believe the women as well. And this has been a strange story because you had the blackface scandal with the governor, Ralph Northam.
Right.
Then who claims that he did not know that how photos got on his page, has never said that was actually him. Right. But then you had the Attorney General, who's actually the next person behind you, who had a blackface scandal, who also announced 3 years earlier that he was running for governor as well.
Right. That's right. And as you mentioned, the timing made it so obvious to people what this was. This was a political attack. It's the weaponization of false allegations, and people. It's really sad and shameful and cynical because this is a real issue. I have survivors of sexual assault in my own family, and I've always stood up for people who have been harmed. I was a federal prosecutor. I have a young son and a young daughter, and so this is a very serious issue. But for people to stoop to the weaponization of a false allegation just solely to achieve a political goal, and then have their plans be exposed. It shows you exactly what this was and how shameful it continues to be. And again, so people are desperate to try to stop us. And we've shown them at every turn that these are false and that we're going to fight to not only clear my name, but to make our politics rise above some of the worst aspects of what we've seen. And Roland, it's not lost on anybody that this is one of the oldest, most racist tropes in this country. When all else fails, when you can't attack someone on their education or on their dedication to the community, on their public service, you accuse an African-American man of a horrific sexual crime but without any evidence.
Right, but you've been accused by 2 black women.
No, understood, but whose stories have fallen apart. And I think that's what makes this also doubly cynical. Because remember, there are other people involved in this. When they showed up with these allegations, again, one of which the Washington Post investigated for months last year and decided not to publish the story because it was uncorroborated. How many people have been, how many elected officials have been smeared with an uncorroborated allegation of this nature, and then immediately asked to resign. People looked at 2 pieces of paper, 2 press releases, and called for your resignation. Now, meanwhile, those same people are radio silent now that the information, the evidence has come out that these were false allegations. So, again, Meredith Watson's attorney, if you call her today and ask her to publicly vouch for the truthfulness of the story, she has ceased to do that post-July. She now makes these bland statements about looking forward to everybody testifying in court. Well, they weren't looking forward to that because they didn't want to go to court.
Republicans have also seemed to back off of holding impeachment hearings.
Yeah, and that was all a political circus from day one. And they are, again, cynically using, this issue and these false allegations, hopefully in their hopes for their own political benefit, but it's failing too. They're doing terribly in the polls. And every time they talk about this and they do a head fake on wanting to hold, these hearings, what they're reminding people is that they don't really have a plan. They don't have a record of accomplishment. And I say, they have a broken record, and they also sound like one because they keep talking about these things even as they are shown to be false and debunked. And so, we, again, have not only gotten through this, as I've said, we've been attacked many times, as you know, in the past, many times by people in our own party. But the people have always stuck with us. I've been very fortunate to have the support of the people. I've never gotten less than 48% of the statewide vote in any election we've ever run. We were elected to lieutenant governor with the most votes in the history of the Commonwealth of Virginia, 1.36 million votes. And so we continue to get this opposition, but we also continue to rise. We're elevated every single time they come after us and attack us, particularly in a case like this where it is so obvious what this has been all about. Making these false, cynical, shameful allegations, not wanting to prove it, and then as the information comes out showing that they're false, wanting to then not talk about it. Now it's radio silent. For 7 months, it was every single day. Wanted to talk about it and accuse me of things, and then when the evidence comes out, radio silence.
Will you file a defamation suit against Meredith Watson, against Vanessa Tyson?
We've not taken any litigation off the table and certainly are observing, everything that's going on. And we made it clear, I said from the start that I was going to clear my name, that these allegations were false, that I was not going to resign because there's no reason to resign over these false allegations, but also that we're going to hold people accountable. Again, we have to get out of this mode and this vicious cycle where some people, not most people, again, when people make these claims, they're very serious claims, everyone should be heard when these types of claims are made. But when they're lying and not telling the truth and fabricating stories, we cannot allow people to simply hurl these out into the public, do as much damage as they can, politically, personally, professionally, and walk away. People want to be arsonists in the lives of other people with false allegations. That has got to stop. And again, we know that there are many instances where these things are true. Here you have two. They're completely false and fabricated and politically motivated. And people need to be held accountable for that.
Will you, obviously, in Virginia, a person can only serve one term as governor.
Right.
Are your plans to run for governor?
That's something we're seriously considering right now. And we're getting a lot of encouragement from people who want to see us run. And again, not that I wanted any of these things to happen. I mean, what happened with Governor Northam was a surprise, certainly to me and to those around us.
Should he still be there? Should he have quit?
As I said before, he has to make the decision that's in the best interest of the Commonwealth of Virginia. And what I will say is, I appreciate the fact that he's committing himself to issues around racial equity and really doing substantive things to help heal some of the wounds of our past. Virginia is really where it all began. In America. We're exactly 400 years since the first enslaved Africans were forced to land in Hampton, Point Comfort, 400 years since our General Assembly met, Jamestown. And so this country is dealing with a lot of its racial demons that it hasn't really dealt with in the past, and this is part of the process. But in this space where we're in, this historic time, to then throw on top of that fabricated false allegations against an African American, really against anybody, but against an African American sitting elected official who I'm 40 years old. I lived 40 years accusation free. And then, literally on the evening before they think I'm going to become governor, come out with these allegations that have been shown now over the past 8 months to be false and fabricated and politically motivated. I mean, to do that in that moment is particularly cynical, but I think the people understand what this has been all about. I think they are re-energized to deal, with those demons that we, have racially in this nation, and that the next 400 years, really starting that off on a very different foot. I mean, they're tired of the gutter politics. They're tired of the slash and burn politics of personal destruction. And I've always, in my public service, tried to call people to a higher purpose, to bring people together, to help people get opportunity, and that's really what we've been all about.
All right, then. Well, we certainly will see what happens next. Lieutenant Governor Jefferson Fairfax, we appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Roland. God bless you. Thanks for having me. Appreciate you. Thank you.
All right, folks, going to go to a break. We come back. We'll talk to my panel about this story, as well as other news of the day, right here on Roland Martin Unfiltered. You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real as Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing $50 each for the whole year. You can make this possible. RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Luxe Jazz Experience taking place in Cabo, November 7th through the 11th. Of course, if you want to attend, go to lifeluxejazz.com, LIFELUXEJAZZ.com. But if you cannot be in Cabo for those 4 days, 14 different amazing artists, then, of course, you could live stream it. Get your live stream pass at gfntv.com. That's gfntv.com. As I said, amazing artists, Gerald Albright, Alice Bouillon, Kirk Whalum, Donna McClurkin, Shalia, Roy Ayers. Man, it's going to be an unbelievable 3-day extravaganza. And so I look forward to you participating. And again, get your live streaming pass to cover those 3 days, all 14 concerts. You'll be able to watch right here on your phone, on your iPad, computer. Does not matter. Go to gfntv.com. That's gfntv.com to get your live stream pass. All right, folks, in Chicago, Dante Servin, the off-duty former Chicago cop who fired his gun out of his car window, killing innocent bystander Rekia Boyd, now wants all evidence of the criminal case file against him cleared from the public record. His lawyer says because it has been hard for him to get a job to support his family with only the approximately $57,000 a year cop pension he currently receives. Really? He got off scot-free on charges of involuntary manslaughter when a Chicago judge threw out the case, saying he should have been charged with murder. So what do you make of this, panel? He wants, as it look, I wasn't convicted, thrown out, remove everything.
Well, I'm sure a lot of people who are in prison, black, white, Hispanic, or whatever, would, well, actually, not in prison, let me take that back. I'm sure a lot of people who were charged with a crime or whatever would like their sentences or convictions to be, you know, expunged, overturned, or whatever the proper words are, but tough luck.
Well, he's saying that I was never tried, was never convicted, so therefore, why should this still be out there in the criminal justice system? Kelly?
Okay.
I mean, he has a point, but at the same time, he did shoot somebody. That person did die, and there's a whole family out there missing their loved one because of the actions that he took. Whether he was tried and convicted or not, you know, it kind of doesn't matter at this point. He has every right to try and pursue an expungement, but at the same time, just from an ethical standpoint, he's a cop. This was another unwarranted killing, and people are still seeking justice on behalf of this victim. And just because he wasn't, you know, he's not in prison right now doesn't mean that there aren't remedies for that family to pursue.
Well, Jason, the big reason why Kim Foxx is the district attorney is because Anita Alvarez was the previous DA. Her office got nailed because of this. But when you take this case and the Laquan McDonald case,
right.
That's why Anita Alvarez was bounced in the Democratic primary by Kim Foxx.
Yeah, I mean, Anita Alvarez was horrible, and one of the things that we need to talk about across the nation, and it really upsets me when people say they don't vote. I think voting is so important, particularly when we're looking at the fact that DAs are elected positions, and we need to cast our votes for people who are going to hold people like Dante Servin accountable. My question is, I guess, a legal one, and I'm not a lawyer, but I'm wondering if he was never tried, can he be charged and tried for this crime? Or under the judge said it should have been murder. Can he be tried for? Because that's not double jeopardy if he was never tried.
Right.
Correct.
I'm still trying to understand why what the whole deal was. Basically, walked free.
Well, it's up to the DA to press charges again.
And I'll say
So
this.
it's not necessarily a double jeopardy issue, it's a DA issue.
And you know, I'll say this, you know, the death of Rekia Boyd, you know, there were some really bad ones. I know, you know, Malik, you said that this
Tamir.
with Tamir and with Jefferson were the worst. I mean, I would say there have been a lot of bad ones, including Walter Scott, where we saw a man get shot in the back. But I would also say that this one hit me particularly hard.
Actually, let me help you on that. So the problem is the judge he didn't just throw it out. He acquitted.
Oh, well then,
That's a different-
Of
that's
involuntary
different.
manslaughter. So the judge, the judge acquitted him, which obviously prompted more public protest. And it was only 3 days. And this actually took place before there was a hearing to determine whether he should be fired. He spent 21 years at the police department. The judge acquitted him.
So I mean, you know, then I
That's a little
understand, but
different.
him, you know, this case in particular hit me hard.
Which I'm still confused by, because if you don't, so it's involuntary manslaughter, but then the judge says it should have been murder, so therefore I'm going to quit. I'm not quite understanding that one, but go ahead. I'm sorry.
No,
That was just a poor judgment call.
I just didn't understand
in terms
that
of
I think when you undercharge, you know, and based on what the evidence is, that I think is a mistake of the prosecuting attorneys there.
But yeah,
And the
but-
DA's office is opposing this effort, citing public policy grounds.
Yeah, and let's also remember.
And let me read the quote. The quote is, "The nature and facts of the crime are such that the public, employers, and law enforcement should have access to his record." Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, Rekia Boyd, one of the things that, you know, really hit me hard about this case is that she was shot in the back of the head. The coward didn't even have the guts to look her in the eye. He shot her in the back of the head.
Read this story.
This is a woman.
From the Chicago Tribune. You can go to my iPad. Servant was off duty and in plain clothes when he said he politely asked a group to hold the noise down as he drove by Douglas Park near his West Side home one late night in March 2012. As one man, Antonio Cross, angrily approached his car, Servant said he believed he saw Cross pull a gun from his waistband. Servant said he yelled that he was a police officer, drew his Glock 9mm, and opened fire over his shoulder from inside his Mercedes as he continued to drive. Cross was wounded in the hand, but Boyd, who was laughing with her friends while standing about 30 feet behind Cross, was shot once in the back of the head. She died the next day. Cross told authorities he had a cell phone in his hand, and as he yelled and gestured at Servant to leave, thinking he was there to buy drugs. No gun was recovered at the scene other than the one fired by Servant.
So you're driving by a group
It's
of
a
people.
drive-by shooting.
You're driving
Literally a
by a
drive-by
group of
shooting.
people
Drive-by shooting.
and telling them to keep the noise down. Well, first of all, people are
Right.
gonna be like, well, who in the hell are you?
Precisely.
Like, what,
I would've cursed them out.
What are you two? Like, where are you coming from with this? Who are you? And
Right.
then anybody, and I'm just imagining me, you know, someone saying, you know, you're walking up to a car and then someone says, I'm a police officer. I'm not just gonna believe that you're a police officer
in a
simply because.
Mercedes driving away.
And let me read this here. This is trip. So the judge, in acquitting him, said that prosecutors failed to prove the off-duty officer acted recklessly.
Well, what's reckless?
If any charges were brought, the judge said, they should have been for first-degree murder because Servant contended that he intentionally shot at Cross to protect himself.
From
From
what?
what?
Because Servant claimed
A cell
That he
phone.
saw a gun.
he saw a gun, but no gun was ever recovered.
Yeah, the gun.
And
I
the-
believed that I saw a gun.
So the real issue is,
Who's this judge?
who the hell is this judge Dennis Porter?
Right.
Yeah, who is this judge? I mean, that's all absolutely ridiculous. And I remember this case. It upset me incredibly. You had, what was she, 19 or? Was she 19 years old, I believe?
22.
22 years old, young woman, gets shot in the back of the head in a drive-by shooting by an off-duty police officer.
Crazy.
This is in his
exactly
Quentin
what
Tarantino
happened.
style because he was sitting in his Mercedes over his shoulder. Well, I don't even understand
Right.
how.
I mean, I'm driving and I'm firing indiscriminately.
But that's
Like,
not
how
I'm
is
reckless.
that not reckless?
I'm not
That's
being,
not
I'm not
reckless.
How
being
is that
fired
not
on.
reckless? You don't even
Right.
know who you're aiming.
That's what's so crazy. I got to get you real quick before your thoughts about the Justin Fairfax lawsuit. I mean, he was going. I mean, look, this thing became national story, and he's fighting back.
And if for any person who is accused, they should. I've said this before. I think this is not very different from the Kavanaugh case, where you had someone make accusations. No one was able to corroborate the accusations, but we assumed that Christine Blasey Ford was being truthful. We gave her the benefit of the doubt. What I don't like about his interview is that he talked about this racist trope of black men being sexually assaulting women or something like that. Well, these are two black women. Trope. But these are two black women who made the accusation against him.
But it's not.
And just because the racist trope exists, and again, I think that accusers should be heard, not necessarily believed. But to say that, well, because I'm a black man, well, there are a lot of black men who not just kill, not just abuse black women, they kill them. So to act as if there's no substance to the notion that a black man can be guilty of a crime like this, I just reject it.
I don't think that's what he was saying at all. At least that's
well,
not
he said that they were making this an issue because it fed into this racist narrative, this trope about black men. Well, two black women accused you.
I don't think it has anything to do with the
I think he was saying
victim
it
per
was politically
se.
motivated.
Politically motivated.
Oh, I'm sure.
And the political motivation was fueled by the racist trope of a black man being
it's
a rapist.
low-hanging fruit,
right?
Basically,
but wasn't it the same? So how do you guys
crime.
compare this to Kavanaugh?
I don't think it has. I don't think there's any comparison.
So you think that there was some? You think there was a valid argument that Christine Blasey Ford made without any corroborating evidence?
No, I mean
that Kavanaugh was guilty.
You yourself said she deserved to be heard.
Right.
That
but she
everything
was believed.
deserved
These
to be
black
investigated.
women aren't believed.
Hold on. She deserved to be the whole thing deserved to be vetted and investigated.
Right.
Many of us believe that there wasn't a significant investigation by the FBI into the claims. That's my only thing. If you couldn't find something from 34 years ago, and I also think that this is different when you're talking about, what Justin Fairfax is saying. He was saying, look, I want to be held to this standard. I want to be investigated. It's very different from Kavanaugh, who was like, I don't want to be investigated.
Exactly.
Well, the
I don't want this to happen.
is that Justin, there was an existing relationship that Lieutenant Governor Fairfax actually acknowledged. Kavanaugh said he didn't know who she was. He had never met her before. The people that actually that were on his friends or whatever, the people that Christine Blasey Ford said was there, said, well, we don't know what she's talking about. So, I mean, I think it's a matter of confirmation bias maybe on both
PJ
sides.
and Squee.
Well, but hey, Justin Fairfax admitted to this relationship.
Sure. And I think that's one of the things that makes this very different. I don't think that these are comparable because of all of these circumstances that were so very different.
Kelly, what do you make of the lawsuit by Justin Fairfax against CBS and what he says about these two women?
I think he has every right to sue if the facts of the case are valid. The news is supposed to be there to tell the truth as objectively and without bias, without partisan views. So if it is a situation in which that is not the case, and CBS is an international platform, and you have this man vying for the governor's seat on an international platform being accused of something very heinous. And if it is found that CBS did not do their due diligence in just, searching for the truth and just, letting the chips fall where they may in terms of information, he has every right to sue.
But they did have a responsibility to report it. When a claim
they had
like
a responsibility to report it, but
did they do it responsibly?
Well, first of all, in his lawsuit, he's saying that there could have other things they could have checked that would have cast doubt on the story and then running with it.
Like that's what I'm saying. Like if there's no objectivity there, like they have every right to report it. All of that. I don't disagree with that. But if there are other things coming up in that investigation that they're not you can't broadcasting or just burying it or like putting it in a crawl somewhere so that it's not
like Kavanaugh.
whatever. I don't. Again, I'm not comparing this to Kavanaugh. I'm
all right, folks.
Why do we keep coming on with Kavanaugh?
Easy.
Kavanaugh was there for a job.
All right, because first of all, I'm not talking Kevin, I'm discussing Justin Fairfax. I'm going to my next story. It's an update on the story we discussed yesterday, dealing with the Word Network. TV and radio station owner Kevin Adell admitted to sending a racially charged meme to Bishop George Bloomer, who we had on the show yesterday. However, Adell denies creating the meme and says he sent it to Bloomer to make him aware of it. Now, Bloomer was one of the pastors depicted in the meme, which shows Adell draped in a white fur coat and a fur hat, an image reminiscent of 1970s pimp caricatures with 4 black pastors from the Word Network and a Lamborghini behind him. Now, here are some of the text messages sent to Bloomer in response to the meme. In them, you can see that Bloomer tried to get him to get rid of the meme, but it looks like Adell thought it was pretty funny. And so you see where it says, "You look like a midget," a tattoo from Fantasy Island. "I didn't know they made tuxedos that small, LOL. Bloomer says, "That's not funny at all." Adell responds, LOL. Then, of course, you have where Bloomer says, "That's not funny. That has a racist connotation to it. That pimp thing, get rid of that as quickly as you possibly can. It's not funny. It's the equivalent to a black face being put on a white man. I'm telling you, it's not funny." And then he responds, "Tattoo, what did Benny say?" Now, I put in a call, and then, of course, you see right there, okay, got it, tattoo. And so he continued to make fun of Bloomer, it says not funny. Bloomer also is, I won't say he's a short man, but he's probably around 5'7", 5'8", something along those lines. And then, of course, you see, I told you I don't like that tattoo business. I told you that it was highly offensive. I told you I would see that as being racist. I told you I do not play games with my name or my character, and what you think is funny is not. I'm going to ask you for the last time, stop playing with me like that. I do not like it. Great on the prayer shawls. See she's earned her picture on the Hall of Fame. Hall of Fame is at the Word Network. He goes, okay, got it. And then got it. So sensitive, WTF. That's what Kevin Adell, that was the text messages that Bloomer sent us. Conversation back and forth with Kevin Adell. We have put in numerous phone calls to Kevin Adell. We've texted his cell phone, called his number. He has not returned our phone calls. Going to our panel here, it's a little hard for Kevin Adell to say, I was simply making him aware this exists, when in these text messages, coming from his phone to Bloomer's phone, he is making fun of it. He's joking, and he is playing this thing up. So even though Kevin Adell, and what Kevin Adell is doing is he's standing on this whole deal of, I didn't create the meme. Well, it doesn't matter if you didn't create it, you're still playing with it and furthering this whole thing.
Right, yeah, it was a bad move on Kevin Adell, and you saw that the other gentleman definitely had a lot of patience. Because I probably would have been like, look, I'm gonna F you up. Like if you don't stop this.
We are talking about pastors here, so
Yeah.
maybe.
He had a lot of patience to write to text all
George
that.
Bloomer's the pastor. Adell is not a pastor.
No, that's what I'm saying
I'm
in the response.
Yeah, Bloomer.
No, I'm saying Bloomer's a pastor. Adell isn't.
Right.
Right, yeah. So I'm saying Bloomer had a lot of patience to sit there and write all that and, look, I think this is racist. Like, I probably would have been a lot shorter.
So the question, Kelly, is very simple. The Word Network is a black targeted network. What would you say if those pastors stay with the Word Network? And the way it works is the Word Network doesn't pay them. They pay the Word Network. You're in essence buying time on the network to air your sermons or your church services. Do you believe these black pastors should stand with Bloomer and pull their shows from the Word Network?
That's tricky because the Word Network is an international platform for a lot of cable packages. That is the only Christian television station.
No.
For a lot of cable, like basic cable packages.
No. You're going to have TBN on more base. First of all, TBN is the largest. So you got TBN, you got Daystar,
That's true.
and you got The Word.
That is
And you got several others. Those really are the top three.
Right.
The top three. Now, The Word, in terms of that targets African Americans.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, that. Now you have another black-owned Christian television network called Impact TV, which is
Right.
also based in Detroit. I think they're in 40 or 45 million homes. The Word is in 80 million plus 80 to 90 million homes. So
Even still, even with those stats, the Word Network still has a far larger outreach than Impact. So it's tricky because if your goal is to evangelize and this is the best platform in which you can do that, or at least the pastor feels as such, I mean, I don't know. Would I still do it?
Yeah, but
No.
but Melik, you're giving your money to a guy who thought it was funny, a meme depicting him as the pimp and black pastors as his hoes.
Well, I didn't. First of all, to me, this is a crazy, silly story. When I first saw it yesterday, I didn't see pimp and hoes.
What did you see?
Well, I saw a pimp with these white pastors behind him.
No,
I mean,
black-
sorry,
no,
with
black
these black
pastors.
pastors in these
So
white
who-
suits
so who-
behind him.
so who they represent?
As part of the gang. I didn't actually see them as hoes.
Pull the image up. You do. You mean you do?
No, I didn't see them as hoes.
Pull the image up. So you just saw them as partners?
Well, I saw them as part of this. If someone had tweeted that or shared it on,
Y'all have the image, please?
on any Facebook or whatever, and it was a black person that actually sent that, we probably would have thought it was.
No,
fine.
stop. First of all, we don't.
I didn't see them as hoes.
Well, look, we don't know if a black person said it. We don't
Right, I
know.
know.
We don't know who made it.
Right.
But you're.
But I didn't see racism when I saw that. I didn't see racism.
Okay, but fine. But Jason, if this black pastor says to
Like,
him,
how is that hoes?
okay, because you have the white pimp who's larger than everyone else,
Right.
and then they're behind him.
Right.
Jason, you have this pastor who says to Adell, hey, this is how this can be seen or perceived. Don't send us around.
Yeah.
His response is not, hey, George, I appreciate that.
Right.
Thanks a bunch.
Right.
Right.
No, he starts making fun of him.
He doubles down.
Calling him tattoo.
Right.
I know they made suits that small. I mean, he's joking.
doubles
The
down.
guy clearly says,
Right.
this is not funny to me.
Right.
Adele pretty much like, I don't give a damn. It's funny to me.
Right, exactly. There was no regard, and honestly, I'm one of those people that I think I agree with you, and that is that I'm not going to give you my money. You know, I'll stream, I will do something else, we'll figure something else out, but I'm not going to give my money to a business where the business owner does not respect me.
Right.
And so, you know, you had a situation, I remember there was a rapper who was discriminated against, I believe in Barney's. So he went and bought out the store. And I'm like, that's a terrible response. You take your money and you take it somewhere else. But you don't sit there and spend money with, and I'm sure that the Word is going to have 10 other preachers that are willing to come in and fill that
Right.
spot.
Yeah.
But still, they don't need to have your money. They don't need to have your congregation's money in order to publicize what you're doing.
And on the question of the boycott, no, I don't think that other pastors do. I mean, and that's obviously it's up, it's up to their discretion. I don't think that there should be a wide boycott of the Word Network because of this ignorance.
I don't
from
see
the
why there
pastor.
shouldn't be one. What I'm saying is, because I'm looking at the comments now on YouTube, and it's like, they're accusing me of like supporting racism by saying,
Well, they do
don't.
that all the time.
They
You
do,
can't-
Why you reading
but I want to
comments?
clarify.
Did you see yesterday's comments?
No, but I just want to clarify. I don't think that they should give their money. I'm saying that it's a tricky situation on behalf of the pastor in making that decision, because it is a large network. It's kind of like
Sure.
when people were saying boycott Walmart.
But here's the deal, though. Okay, so then what? All right, that's cool for Kevin Adell to sit here and
No,
joke with
I'm
the
not
guy.
saying it's
Here's the thing.
So here's the piece, though. So then what's the repercussion? Just, hey, dude, sorry. Adele, here's the other piece. Adele has not offered an apology.
No.
he's offering explanation. We're watching the text messages. His response is,
Dude, what the F?
yo,
But
hey, why y'all tripping?
But I think this is an opportunity. What I would like to see happen, so those pastors, then those black pastors should put the fire under Adell to make him actually address it. I kind of agree with what Killer
that's
Mike
what
said.
the petition is for. The Change.org petition is for.
Well, I think it seems I think what Roland was asking, they were boycotting the show. But I actually take I consider what Killer Mike said down at the Revolt Summit down in Atlanta when we're talking about boycotting. And I think he mentioned that, everybody was saying when the incident happened at the Waffle House, everyone was saying, well, let's boycott the entire Waffle House organization or what have you. And so I agree that there are steps that you can take. And even what he said at that point, boycott that one.
Right.
Boycott that one. But I do think that
but hold up. See, this is where Killer Mike is wrong on that one.
He's not wrong. You just disagree with him.
No, he was wrong.
Well, you just disagree.
No. Let me say it again. He was wrong. There were multiple Waffle Houses. That wasn't one.
Yeah,
it wasn't. No. It wasn't like that was this one Waffle House. There were multiple incidents that happened at Waffle Houses that spoke to a culture. And again, but here's the other piece. Why when we say boycott, okay? First of all, boycott is something that is totally different than simply, I'm not going to be spending my money.
Right.
Okay, that's first and foremost, okay? This is an actual organized plan, whatever you want to call this whole deal. The issue for me here is that first, the man tells you, man, this is not funny.
Right.
It's a racial issue. Here you are, white guy. It's not funny. But you keep joking with me.
Right.
You don't care.
You keep playing with me. Okay, you keep doing that. Then, what you then do is you come out and you say, hey, I was just trying to make him aware
BS.
of this, which is nonsense.
Yeah,
And then he doesn't apologize. That's one. Doesn't apologize. Now, so the Detroit chapter of the National Association of Black Journalists, and they sent on a tweet, which they have now deleted. I was about to pull it up. They condemned what he did and also called for a boycott of the media outlet. He now claimed that he may very well sue the Detroit NABJ chapter, saying they are defaming me with their letter and statement. He then says 95% of his employees are black. Well, this is what he says. Quote, to say that I need diversity training, to say that I need to apologize for something that I didn't do, why would I apologize for something I didn't do? Let me make this perfectly clear to you, Kevin Adell. You cannot try to have this both ways. Game recognizes game. We're not interested in you dancing around this issue. Here is the reality, Kevin Adell. Are the text messages true or not?
Exactly.
See, you keep saying, quote, I didn't do this.
I didn't create it. It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter if you didn't create it. The fact that you sent it, man tells you, man, look, this is not funny. He tells you it has a racial connotation. You still ignore him. Pull the text messages back up. You blow that off. You then insult the man by calling him a midget. You insult the man by calling him Tattoo from Fantasy Island.
Right.
You insult him a third time by saying, I don't, go back to the other one, go back. I didn't know they made tuxedos that small, LOL, smiley face. And the man tells you that's not funny at all, and your response is LOL. He then gives you another long response, not a one-line response. And you call him Tattoo again. That is being insensitive to this black man, insensitive to his feelings. That is what you should be apologizing for.
He should.
But to sit here and act as if you're the victim is wrong. Leaders lead. And let me say this, Kevin Adell, and you and I have talked. Several months ago, you approached me about putting this show on the Word Network, and then offering a radio slot, and also your local television station. So that's irrelevant to me right now. If you say in this story that 95% of your employees, you say you have 160 employees and 95% are black, why are you doubling down?
Right.
How hard is it to say, Bishop Bloomer, I apologize for making fun of you even after you told me to stop? That's all you got to do.
Ego.
That's all you had to do. There would not be a letter campaign. There would not be a change.org petition. There would not have been an NABJ statement, Detroit NABJ statement. None of these things would have happened if all you said is, Bishop Bloomer, you know what, you're right. I apologize for making fun of you as a result of this meme. But just saying, I didn't do anything, I didn't create it, why should I apologize? That, Kevin Adell, that's arrogance. That is arrogance. And it's arrogance whether you're white or if you're black or Latino or Asian or Native American or male or female or gay or straight, it doesn't matter. It's arrogance. And if you're running a Christian network,
That part.
Lead by example.
you're running repeat this, Kevin Adell. You are running a Christian network. And what is one of the most important tenets of Christianity? Forgiveness, brotherly love. Why don't you practice it? Because what it looks like right now is, I'm not saying a damn thing, y'all just keep paying me. And I dare say, Kevin Adell, if you don't apologize to George Bloomer, I got no problem if these pastors pull their shows from your network and stop sending in checks. Because what that would say is that an arrogant CEO of a Christian network doesn't care about the feelings of this pastor, somebody who was a prominent figure on his network. That's what you should do. That's what leaders do. Gonna go to a quick break. We're gonna come back. We'll talk the issue of juvenile justice and what we can do to end what's happening with juveniles in this country. Back on Roland Martin Unfiltered. You want to check out Roland Martin Unfiltered? YouTube.com/Roland S. Martin. And subscribe to our YouTube channel. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real. It's Roland Martin Unfiltered. See that name right there? Roland Martin Unfiltered. Like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. That's YouTube.com/Roland S. Martin. And don't forget to turn on your notifications so when we go live, you'll know it. In a crackdown driven by fear, California has sent thousands of teenagers to adult courts and prisons for crimes they committed as juveniles. Laws have since softened, but the fallout remains. Black and Latino people represent 70% of prison inmates in California, but they make up 86% of juveniles charged as adults over the past 10 years. Michael Mendoza, who was sent to state prison when he was 17 for a gang murder, spent nearly 2 decades behind bars before being granted parole in 2014. He earned a bachelor's degree and is national director for #Cut50, a group working to reduce the prison population. He joins us right now. Michael, obviously we saw a Supreme Court decision when it came to decisions involving juveniles that sort of changed what was happening across this country. But are states moving fast enough, or are they still operating and treating juveniles as adults?
Hi, Roland. Thank you so much for having me on the show. Unfortunately, no. States are not moving fast enough. However, in California, I think we are on the right path, where many laws have changed to provide a lot of youth the opportunities they need, not for rehabilitation, but for hope. Many of the youth, especially in California, who have been tried as adults and is sentenced to extremely long sentences basically receive a message from society saying that we have no hope in you, right? And so in California, we have made quite some headway. However, in the rest of the country, we'd still like to see more progress in how the criminal justice system treats our youth.
It is also important to have, frankly, district attorneys who understand this, who are compassionate, as opposed to the law and order folks who are just like lock them up, throw the key away. It's
very, very critical when we look at who we vote for and who we put into these seats for prosecutors, because they're the ones who are really creating this narrative that we saw in the mid-90s, right? Where we have kids being called super predators, mostly black and brown youth. Now we see that that's actually wasn't the case, and research shows that. And I really feel that DAs and prosecutors play a huge role in how we treat our kids. And so definitely a really important point.
So what state is the most egregious when it comes to how they treat juveniles?
Wow. Well, I would say it used to be California, but I would also say Florida and some of our other states in the Deep South, where we still see kids receive life without parole or extreme life sentences as adults. Even when they come home, they are on lifetime parole. So it's really a sentence that follows them throughout the rest of their entire lives. And most of our southern states in the country still have these really inhumane laws that treat our youth in a really terrible way.
Well, certainly it's a huge issue, and it's one that we believe needs to be addressed. If folks want more information to assist Cut 50, how do they get in contact with you guys?
Cut50.org. You can just look to cut50.org, follow us, see the work that we're doing, and get involved.
All right, Michael Mendoza, we appreciate it. Keep fighting a good fight.
Thank you.
All right, folks. Empowered. Thank you very much. All right. Empowered to Serve is a platform inspired by the American Heart Association volunteers around the country. The Empowered to Serve Business Accelerator works with social entrepreneurs and organizations making a health impact. These areas of focus include access to care, education, transportation, food access, and any of the other factors leading to health equity for all. This Thursday, we're going to actually be broadcasting our show from the Smithsonian Museum, African American History and Culture, where I'll be emceeing the event as part of the Business Accelerator for AHA. But joining us right now is Krista Chambers-Price, CEO of EntreSlam, an organization that trains accelerator participants. First and foremost, Krista, how you doing?
I'm great. How are you doing, Roland?
I'm doing good. And so how important are programs like this? Because look, people, when you look at entrepreneurs out there, folks say, look, I want help, I need help. How does this Business Accelerator help?
Well, it helps because it's really tied to helping entrepreneurs understand, how do they not just take these great ideas that are that they have in the back of their head, that's already active, and showing how the power of what they're doing works. And so this particular accelerator, Roland, what we do is it's not just about putting ideas on stage and having it judged and winning some grant money. There really is a partnership within the communities in which they're having the impact, so that they can show specifically how are they going to make a big difference. And so with the American Heart Association and what they are doing in these communities is different, Roland, and it's pretty remarkable what they're pulling out of these entrepreneurs and putting them in front of opportunity and grant dollars to make it happen.
And so, obviously, what is the training program like? So somebody goes through this, what does it entail?
8 weeks of taking them through what their idea is and really pulling it apart in layers that covers everything from having them look at the customer themselves and go through the customer psychology and behavioral studies of what motivates the audience themselves. A lot of entrepreneurs, they know what they do, and they may know who it applies to, but understanding what makes people say yes to it, that's what we really pull apart with each of these ideas. Then they go through a process of really tearing apart the design of their brand and the product and testing it from end
I think you froze there. All right, hopefully we'll get Krista back. Let me know if she unfreezes. Again, she was freezing there, and that's Krista Chambers Price, CEO of Entree Slam. Krista, you back? All right, there we go. We got you. So you were talking about tearing apart their program and then testing it.
Yeah, testing it and rebuilding it so it speaks directly to what the customers want and what they're expecting to see in terms of impact. Then we help them understand why they're in it and why they're the ones to lead it. Because it's not just about having a great idea and having a great product. You really do have to have the grit to see it through to the end. And so we take them through that process. And really, all of this pulls together into a beautiful narrative and a story that goes beyond the pitch. This is not a pitch competition. This is a business storytelling experience where pitching focuses on what you do and business storytelling focuses on who you are. And at the end of the day, investors are not just betting on the horse, they're betting on that driver too. And that's also something else that we uncover and work on in these 8 weeks together.
Last question for you. What type of person who needs to understand that they need to go through this kind of program? Because a lot of people just say, look, I don't need any of this training. I'm good. I can run my own business.
Well, that may be absolutely true. There are those individuals who feel like, you know what, I have this on wrap. But, this is a very competitive market, or many competitive markets that are out here right now. And you got to be on your A game. That A game is shifting.
All right, then. Well, Krista Chambers Price, we appreciate it. Thank you so very much. All right, folks, last story here. Today, Rudy Giuliani has said, the hell with Congress. I'm not, of course, complying with your subpoena. This is fake. It's no good. And so I don't care. I dare say, Melik, tell the U.S. Marshals, go pick his ass up and put him in handcuffs.
Well, sure.
When did the subpoena become optional?
Yeah, sure. I mean, if they want to exercise that right, then let them do that.
No, but I'm asking. But I'm saying, should Rudy Giuliani, an attorney, former U.S. attorney for the Southern District of New York, should he just say, I'm not going to comply with a subpoena?
I think anyone who has been subpoenaed should actually respond to the subpoena. But we know how it is in politics. So the fact that he's not going to appear just does not surprise me, and I don't think that this is where we are in our politics. I mean, the whole thing, of course, where people are arguing is that this is a political move anyway, so it doesn't surprise me that Rudy Giuliani is saying, nope, I'm not going to appear.
Kelly, I don't think this is where we are in our politics. I think this is where we are in the extreme arrogance of the Trump administration.
I think this is where we are with Giuliani. And if you really just take a look at the history of his behavior, even before Trump, he's always been arrogant. He's always been very pompous and, quite frankly, rude. Like Melik said, this does not surprise me, although him saying that it's fake or that he doesn't have to comply with the subpoena is just idiotic at best. It's just who says that, but somebody who is arrogant.
Jason, Democrats, I fundamentally believe you have to make an example out of somebody. I believe that in the case, if Rudy Giuliani is going to say, the hell with the House, I am going to ignore a subpoena, I think you do exactly what you do when someone ignores a subpoena. And that is, you haul their asses into court, or you bring them to front, you send the marshals. If I got subpoenaed by a district attorney, or if I got subpoenaed by a U.S. attorney, and I not just ignored it, but publicly said, y'all can go to hell, I guarantee you, my black ass ain't walking around free.
No, I'm pretty sure of that too. And I would advise you as your colleague and friend that if you get subpoenaed, your black ass better go.
But I guess when you white, that's how that rolls.
Right.
You just ignore subpoenas.
Well, I think a lot of them feel like they're insulated by the president. This is why they're not complying with subpoenas, and they're not giving over documents, and they just are saying, the hell with it. We want to try this whole thing in the court of public opinion. and we're not going to supply Congress with anything. And you know, this is really troubling. And I think this is where we are in our politics, unfortunately. I don't know. I can't imagine any president of the United States and their associates, particularly Rudy Giuliani. And Rudy Giuliani, before he became mayor, you know, when he was going after the mafia, was a good attorney.
Yeah.
Like he did some good things. Now, when he became mayor, it was different. That's when he went downhill.
But I love it how some people have to be reminded of their feelings on some other issues. This is from the Hill. This is Lindsey Graham, Senator Lindsey Graham, South Carolina, being questioned by journalists on this very issue.
Tell us about what your view is at this point of Democrats' impeachment probe. 20 years ago, you said that not complying with the subpoena was an impeachable offense.
Nothing's changed.
Do you still think that that's an offense?
Oh, no, hell no. Run that shit back. Run that back. No.
Great.
Run that back.
Can you tell us about what your view is at this point of Democrats' impeachment probe? 20 years ago, you said that not complying with the subpoena was an impeachable offense.
Nothing's changed.
Do you still think that that's an offense?
Okay, I want you to run that back, pull the audio, keep the camera on me. This is Lindsey Graham. Audio. No.
20 years ago, you said that not complying with the subpoena.
Shit, I got somewhere to go. Yeah, nothing changed. I gotta go.
Well, the fact that he said nothing's changed is telling.
First of all, he wasn't talking about that. Trust me. That was a straight up. Why y'all gotta bring up something I said 20 years ago?
Of course it was.
Why y'all
trying to get out of the conversation altogether, but the fact that he said nothing's changed, I mean, that's on record. That is something that is
Matt, what's it with your boy with? Matter of fact, maybe you didn't see that. Run that again.
What can you tell us about what your view is at this point of Democrats' impeachment probe? 20 years ago, you said that not complying with the subpoena was an impeachable offense.
Nothing's changed.
Do you still think that that's an offense?
Okay, let me explain something, y'all. When you start, let me just give y'all what I know about body language. When you are talking to somebody and you're looking them in the eye, and then they ask you something and you start lying, you go, y'all. First case, he was lying. Malik, your boy was sitting there like, why y'all got to bring up what I said 20 years ago? Did y'all really got to bring that stuff up?
None of us should be surprised at his response. We just saw from a couple of weeks ago where the media, and they were incessant about it, that they were playing clips of Democrats do the impeachment hearing and the things that they were saying. This is something that happens all the time, where you have Democrats on record saying something from years ago that they don't agree with.
What are you referring to? What they were playing?
The many, well, maybe only Fox News played it then, but the many clips of Democrats talking about, I think it was during the fairness of the Clinton trial, of the Clinton impeachment, where you had Democrats on record talking about the process, talking about the things in it. So this is just another example of that. I don't expect any politician, and I don't know who that politician would be, the one to say, well, I just think differently now. I mean, they're just not going to say it. They're not going to give you that win.
Well, first of all,
this is just
I also
example
remember it
of
was
that.
Lindsey Graham who also said the Republican Party was going to hell and Donald Trump won. It's totally amazing how he has sold his soul to Donald Trump. But that's how Lindsey Graham is. And so speaking of that, Jamie Harrison is running against him, raised $2.4 million in the last quarter. And so we'll see how that race goes. All right, folks, we got to go. Certainly appreciate it. Tomorrow I'll be broadcasting from the Spirit Democracy Awards by Melanie Campbell. So we'll be on location for that. We'll also be streaming that event as well. And so look forward to that. I want to thank all of our guests today and our panel as well. Thanks a bunch. If you want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered, please go to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar you give goes to support this show. And what we do, you can give via Square, PayPal, or even Cash App as well. And if you want to send a check, hey, send me an email. We'll send you the address. This is about having an independent, Black-owned operation. We can speak to our issues and concerns, and we ain't got to ask nobody else for permission. That's why we do what we do. So please support us at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. All right, folks, I'll see you guys tomorrow. Tomorrow morning, we'll be live streaming the National Minority Supply Development Council. I am moderating that tomorrow morning from Atlanta. I'll be on the plane in 3 hours, and so I'll see you guys there tomorrow. But I will be flying back for our show, of course, with the Spirit Democracy Awards. All right, I gotta go. Holla!